Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. We're going to be diving into a big Premier League matchup for you this afternoon. Brentford taking on Chelsea. And, I think we got to go beyond the usual pregame stuff here, right? We've got something special for today's analysis.
Yeah, we've pulled together a ton of predictions from a whole bunch of AI models. And the interesting thing is, these models, which are usually super smart, well, they don't exactly agree on who's going to win.
It's like a total AI disagreement.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to figure out what these predictions are telling us, why these models are split, and what you, the listener, can take away from all this. We're talking about some big-name AI players here: Random Forest, GBM, tuned MLP, even a Bayesian MLP thrown into the mix. Then we've got a Monte Carlo simulation, and of course, the good old Poisson regression.
Right, so let's kick things off with the match details. It's Brentford hosting Chelsea this Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoff. Both teams are coming off a mixed bag of recent results, haven't really found their consistent groove.
Yeah, exactly. And weather-wise, looks like a dry but breezy day in London. Should be around 11 degrees Celsius.
Tactically, it's going to be interesting. Brentford, they're all about that direct physical style, very strong at home, too. Chelsea, they like to control possession, pass the ball around in the midfield, try to dictate the tempo. But, they haven't exactly been firing on all cylinders lately.
All right, let's jump straight into these AI predictions. We've got the numbers right here for each model. Each one gives us the percentage chance of a Brentford win, a draw, and a Chelsea win. So starting with the Random Forest model, what's it seeing?
Well, the Random Forest seems to fancy Brentford's chances. It gives them a 45% chance of victory, a 28% chance of a draw, and leaves Chelsea with a 27% chance.
Okay, so slight edge to Brentford there. Now, how about that GBM, the one that learns from its mistakes, right?
Exactly. And it's even more on the Brentford bandwagon. UBM gives Brentford a 55.2% chance of winning, thinks a draw is less likely at 23.3%, and Chelsea even lower at 21.5%.
Wow, that's a pretty significant difference already. What's the tuned MLP think?
All right, so now things get interesting. Our tuned MLP is actually leaning towards a draw as the most likely outcome. It gives the draw a 38.8% probability, puts Brentford at 37.2%, and Chelsea trailing behind with a 24% chance of winning.
Hold on, so we've got two models liking Brentford, one going for the draw. This is getting unpredictable. Where does the Bayesian MLP fit into all this?
The Bayesian MLP. Remember, this one's all about acknowledging uncertainty, and it is not very confident. It gives very low probabilities across the board. A draw is the most likely outcome, if you can even call it that, at just 12.9%, followed by Brentford at 12.4%, and then Chelsea way down at 8%. It's basically saying, I just don't know.
Okay, so one big shrug from the Bayesian MLP. How about the Monte Carlo simulation? With all those virtual matches, what does it show?
Right, so the Monte Carlo sim seems to agree with the tuned MLP. A draw is the most common result in its simulations at 39%. Brentford comes in close at 37.3%, and Chelsea wins in only 23.7% of those virtual matches.
Okay, last but not least, let's hear from the Poisson regression, the model that focuses on all those goals.
Right. The Poisson regression, sticking with its love for goals, is back on the Brentford train. It gives them a 43.5% chance of winning. A draw is next at 26.6%, and Chelsea sits at 29.5% chance of victory.
Okay, so there you have it, folks. Some models are all in on Brentford, others are pointing towards a draw, and one is just saying, who knows? It's a total AI showdown. And, it kind of makes sense when you think about Chelsea's form lately. They've been up and down, haven't they? Maybe that's throwing the models off.
Absolutely. It's tough for some models, especially the ones that rely heavily on consistent performance trends, to handle a team like Chelsea. Their results don't always reflect their underlying stats, which makes it hard to predict.
All right, let's move away from the numbers for a minute and talk tactics. What are we seeing on the pitch, and how might that play into these predictions?
Well, Brentford, we know they're dangerous. They're strong on set pieces, win a ton of second balls, and they're really good in the air. You can definitely see them causing problems for Chelsea's defense, especially if they come up against a big, strong striker.
Yeah, they could definitely exploit some weaknesses there if Chelsea isn't careful.
Right. And on the other side, Chelsea's got some serious pace up front, players like Sterling and Jackson. If Brentford gets caught pushing too high or loses the ball in midfield, Chelsea can hit them hard and fast on the break.
So we've got this clash of styles. Now, the big question for our listeners is, what does this mean for them, especially if they're thinking about this game, maybe from a betting perspective? When all these fancy models disagree like this, it's got to mean something, right?
Absolutely. It means this game is a real toss-up. It tells us there's a lot of uncertainty in the betting market. which, can be a good thing if you know how to play it.
Okay, so how can our listeners take advantage of this uncertainty? What are some strategies they can use based on these predictions?
Well, one thing that stands out is that many models are leaning towards either a Brentford win or a draw. So a draw or Brentford double chance bet could be a smart move. You're essentially covering two of the more likely outcomes.
Makes sense. You're increasing your chances by backing the outcomes that the models seem to like the most. What else is out there?
Given that both teams can score, and it could be a bit of a chaotic match, both teams to score, BTTS, yes, is another interesting option. It's quite possible we'll see goals from both sides.
Okay, now what about if the game is more controlled? If Brentford's defense holds up and the weather slows things down, what
Yeah.
then?
If that happens, then under 2.5 goals could be the way to go. If Brentford can keep it tight at the back and frustrate Chelsea's attack, we might see a low-scoring game.
All right, any specific correct scores that we should be looking at?
Well, 1-1 draw aligns with those higher probabilities from the tuned MLP and the Monte Carlo simulation. And then a 2-1 Brentford win could be a good value bet considering how much those GBM and random forest models believe in Brentford.
All right, now this is a volatile match, lots of unknowns. How should our listeners approach it responsibly, especially if they're putting down money?
Right. With so much uncertainty, it's key to be cautious. Keep your bet sizes small, maybe 1-2% of your bankroll. That way you can ride out the swings and minimize any losses.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of why these models are disagreeing. You said earlier that different models focus on different parts of the data, right? Can you give us a little more on that?
Absolutely. Each model uses its own unique way to analyze the data and find patterns. For example, some models like Random Forest and GBM really zoom in on recent form and head-to-head results. Poisson regression, on the other hand, relies more on those team strength ratings and long-term goal stats.
Okay, makes sense. What about that tuned MLP? I remember you said it might be picking up on chaos. What does that mean when we're talking about predicting football?
So the multi-layer perceptron, that type of neural network, it's really good at finding those complex patterns, those relationships that aren't so straightforward. And with a team like Chelsea, they can be brilliant 1 minute and off their game the next. The MLP might be seeing this inconsistency and not wanting to commit to any one outcome. That's probably why it's leaning towards the draw, kind of a safe middle ground.
Ah, so it's seeing that Chelsea factor.
Yeah.
Like they're a wild card.
Exactly. And the Bayesian MLP, with its super low confidence across the board, that reinforces this idea. It's saying, look, I've crunched the numbers, I've accounted for my own uncertainty, and I just don't see a clear favorite here.
Okay, so bottom line for our listeners, don't just blindly follow one AI model, especially when they're all over the place like that.
Precisely. Think of it this way. Each model is like a super smart friend who knows a lot about football. But each friend has their own way of looking at things. The real value comes from listening to all of them, understanding their reasoning, and then forming your own conclusion.
All right, like a panel of experts. Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into the Brentford versus Chelsea match, what are the main takeaways for our listeners?
First, this is a high variance game, lots of unpredictability, which is clearly shown by the diverse predictions we got from the AI models. Second, football, and especially a team like Chelsea, can be really hard to predict, even for super smart algorithms.
And I know you mentioned live betting. Can you remind folks about how that might play into this match?
Yes. Keeping an eye on those live odds during the game can be a smart strategy. For example, if Brentford scores first, you might see Chelsea's odds to win start going up. That could be a good time to either hedge any pre-match bets you made or, if you still believe in Chelsea, jump on those higher odds.
So be informed, be responsible, and know that football is full of surprises. Don't let those surprises make you do anything rash.
Exactly. Manage your bankroll, consider what all the AI models are telling you, and don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially in a match like this.
Okay, and the question that even the AI can't answer definitively, who do you think will win this West London battle? Will it be Brentford with their physicality and home advantage? Will it be Chelsea with their talent and attack and flair? Or will it be a stalemate?
And just one more thing, we've created something special to help you out. For even more free analysis and bonus predictions for this Brentford-Chelsea match, head on over to our temporary Google site.
Yes, we put together some great stuff there while our main website is still under construction. You can find it at https://sites.google.com. View Gamblers Ruin Project Home.officers 0. It's completely free, no need to log in. Check it out and let us know what you think.
All right, that's all for today's deep dive.
See you next time, everyone.